The Premier League title race may have just delivered its most controversial and dramatic moment in years. Because what happened between Arsenal and West Ham is going to be debated for a very long time. Arsenal escaped the London Stadium with a massive victory, but the entire football world is now split over one question. Did VAR save Arsenal's title hopes, or did it simply make the correct decision? And honestly, this was not just another controversial call. This felt season-defining. West Ham thought they had scored a dramatic late equaliser in stoppage time. The stadium exploded, Arsenal players looked devastated, and Manchester City fans everywhere probably believed the title race had swung back in their favour. But then VAR stepped in. 4 minutes and 17 seconds later, the goal was ruled out for a foul on David Raya. Immediately, social media exploded. Former players were divided, fans were divided. Even on Sky Sports, the debate became heated because some believed it was an obvious foul, while others argued there was simply too much happening inside the box for VAR to interfere. Jermaine Defoe was one of the people who believed the goal should have stood. He explained that when he first watched the incident, he did not think there was enough contact to justify overturning the goal. And what made the situation even more complicated was the amount of grappling happening everywhere inside the penalty area. You had Declan Rice being held, Trossard was also holding a player. Souček and Havertz were involved physically. Bodies were everywhere, arms everywhere, shirts being pulled everywhere. Defoe's point was simple. If you start isolating one tiny moment in situations like that, then almost every single corner in the Premier League could become a foul. But Jamie Carragher completely disagreed. Carragher argued that the decision was absolutely correct and that people were allowing emotions or anti-Arsenal bias to affect their judgment. According to him, the key detail was not just the arm near Raya, but the actual grip on the goalkeeper's arm that stopped him from properly reaching the ball. And this is where the debate became really interesting. Carragher explained that Arsenal have become masters at pushing football's boundaries. He said Arsenal constantly look for every possible advantage, from their aggressive set-piece routines to the way Arteta behaves on the touchline, to the way their players crowd goalkeepers during corners. He even mentioned how Arsenal changed the way many teams approach set-pieces over the last few years by putting huge numbers of players inside the 6-yard box. But Carragher also made another important point. Just because Arsenal pushed the boundaries does not mean this specific decision was wrong. In his eyes, it was still a clear foul, and when you look closely at the replay, you can understand why the debate is so intense. One angle makes it look soft. Another angle makes the contact appear much more significant. One replay makes Raya look weak. Another replay makes it look impossible for him to move freely. That is why this incident became so massive, because it was not just about Arsenal and West Ham. This decision affected Manchester City. It affected Tottenham, it affected the relegation battle, it affected the title race, it affected the entire Premier League season. Paul Merson even described it as one of the biggest VAR moments in Premier League history because of the sheer magnitude of what was at stake. He admitted there were fouls happening everywhere in the box, but still believed the referee ultimately made the correct decision by focusing on the foul against the goalkeeper. But even people who believed it was technically the right decision still had concerns. The biggest criticism was about VAR itself. Many fans argued that if a decision takes more than 4 minutes to analyse, then how can it possibly be clear and obvious? That phrase has become one of the most frustrating parts of modern football because supporters feel consistency no longer exists. Merson actually said something really interesting. He argued that the longer VAR takes, the harder it becomes to justify overturning an on-field call. In his opinion, truly clear and obvious mistakes should only take seconds to fix. And honestly, that argument is difficult to ignore. Because by the time the final decision came, the emotion inside the stadium had completely disappeared. Fans no longer celebrated goals naturally because everybody now waits nervously for VAR confirmation. That emotional damage to football is becoming a bigger conversation every season. But while everybody focused on the controversy, there was another huge moment in the match that may end up defining Arsenal's entire season. David Raya's unbelievable save. Jamie Carragher compared it to legendary title-winning saves from Premier League history. He mentioned Peter Schmeichel's famous stop against Newcastle and Neville Southall's huge moment for Everton. He believes this save could become one of those iconic title race memories Arsenal fans replay forever if they go on to win the league. Now, Jermaine Defoe had a slightly different perspective. He felt the striker actually made the wrong decision in front of goal. According to Defoe, the attacker took too many touches, narrowed the angle too much, and then tried to finish at the near post instead of opening his body and placing the ball across goal. And when you watch the replay carefully, you can see exactly what he means. The striker almost looked too confident. His foot positioning became awkward, his balance disappeared, and by the time he shot, Raya had already reacted. Still, the goalkeeper deserves huge credit because the pressure of that moment was enormous. One mistake there could have changed the entire title race instantly. Instead, Raya delivered one of the biggest saves of the season, and this is why Arsenal are where they are right now. Not because they are always the most entertaining side, not because they score the most goals, but because defensively they have become monsters. Carragher made a brilliant point when he said Arsenal's attack may not win them the title, but their goalkeeper, centre-backs and Declan Rice probably will. And when you look at Arsenal's recent form, it is difficult to disagree. Clean sheets, defensive discipline, big moments, leadership under pressure. That is championship mentality. Then we come to Martin Odegaard. And honestly, this part of the analysis may have been the most important of all. Carragher explained how Mikel Arteta actually made a mistake with his substitutions during the game. Arsenal lost defensive organisation briefly, and Odegaard himself nearly contributed to a dangerous moment that could have cost Arsenal the title. But what impressed Carragher was not the mistake, it was the response afterward. He praised Odegaard for immediately demanding responsibility, constantly asking for the ball, controlling possession, leading the team emotionally and technically under massive pressure. Carragher even described it as a form of leadership similar to what Arsenal fans once saw from Tony Adams, except expressed differently through composure and intelligence rather than aggression. And then came the decisive moment. Odegaard waited patiently, timed the pass perfectly, found Trossard at exactly the right moment, and Arsenal scored the winning goal. Those are title-winning actions. Not flashy skills, not viral moments, but calm decision-making under extreme pressure. And that is why Arsenal fans now genuinely believe this could finally be their year. However, Manchester City are still very much alive in this race, and one player keeping them alive is Jeremy Doku. Jamie Carragher described Doku as probably the most dangerous winger in the Premier League right now, and after watching his performance against Brentford, it is hard to argue against that. What makes Doku terrifying is that defenders no longer know which direction to force him. Normally, defenders try to show dangerous wingers down the outside, but Doku is now scoring goals cutting inside as well. Brentford actually adjusted their defensive strategy during the game because they became scared of allowing him onto his stronger foot. But once they started protecting the inside, Doku simply exploded down the outside with his pace. That is elite-level wing play. Jermaine Defoe praised the way Doku attacks defenders directly and explained how he watches opponents' balance carefully before shifting the ball at exactly the right moment. Carragher even said that if he were still a defender, Doku would probably be the winger he would least want to face in the entire league. And statistically, Doku is dominating. Most dribbles, most progressive carries, most open play chances created per game. He is not just entertaining anymore. He is becoming decisive, which means Manchester City are still dangerous, very dangerous. But psychologically, this weekend felt massive for Arsenal, because title races are often decided by moments where champions survive games they maybe should not survive. This was one of those moments. A controversial VAR decision, a world-class save, huge defensive resilience, a captain stepping up under pressure, and a team finding a way to win when everything around them became chaotic. That is what champions do. And now the pressure shifts back onto Manchester City. Because Arsenal have shown they are willing to suffer, fight, survive controversy, and grind out victories in the ugliest moments imaginable. For years, people questioned Arsenal's mentality. People said they were too soft, too emotional, too inexperienced. But this current Arsenal side looks completely different. They look ruthless, they look mature, And most importantly, they look like a team that truly believes the title belongs to them. Now the question is simple. Can Manchester City still find a way back into this race? Or was the London Stadium the exact moment Arsenal finally took control of the Premier League title once and for all?